listening to some of the speakers, and I heard about money, and I heard about crime, and I heard these topics, and I immediately thought of banks and convenience stores. It's not the only, we have issues with criminal behavior in our community at all enterprises. Listening to the speakers, and they talk about code enforcement and businesses and these medical marijuana shops or pot shops that are operating illegally. We have all manner and forms of businesses who are operating illegal that require that we have staff that has to go out and do code enforcement action on them. And so this is something that I don't think that we should personally put this issue in a negative light as relates to them when we have these same issues and same problems, them being medical cooperatives, medical marijuana cooperatives. And we have the same issues on other segments of our community, and we don't use that to demean or degrade those businesses and those operations. And then my last point is on the fee issue. Fees at times, that's coming before the Board of Supervisors, but fees at times can be seen to be punishment, or they can seem to be punitive in nature, that ours are higher or lower than others. But we do that. One of the speakers identified the fact that we had worked together, and I need to publicly say that I am an employee of the City of Encinitas, and I do get involved on ABC issues and medical marijuana issues in my professional capacity within that city. But fee structures, we have different fee structures, for example, for traffic mitigation fees. Back to a convenience store or a medical office, dental office will pay a far greater fee than a regular commercial building. So having differentiation in our fee structures that specify or that have a real world relationship with the cost of providing those services or building those roads or whatever we're doing is an appropriate thing to do. And so we shouldn't get disappointed that this fee is higher or that fee is higher. It goes on all levels of government depending upon what the impacts are. So those are my comments, and I can support staff's recommendation on those two items, and then I would ask that we carefully consider the issue of the 1,000 feet.
Having said that, Commissioner Norby, why don't you craft a motion to that effect? You're the last speaker, the last commissioner.
And then I would ask staff if it would be appropriate that I just move staff's recommendation and then a follow-up motion in terms of direction, or if I should include that in the original motion.
I think you can do either way. You can make a formal recommendation just on staff's recommendation before you now, and then follow it up with a recommendation as far as a letter or basically convey your concerns to the Board of Supervisors. And I kind of drafted up something real quick that I can share with you, and you guys can use it if you'd like. But it was, please, it says, just advise the Board of Supervisors, raise awareness relative to expanding buffer requirements from sensitive land uses that are located within the incorporated cities, while carefully considering the impact that causes on the availability of sites today.
And I think as recommended language for their consideration, I'd be happy to include that. And I would ask that we strengthen it. Our prior direction as a commission was to, as a commission, not the Board of Supervisors, was to have, we were down to 6 at one point, and we wanted to serve the unincorporated area, and we got up to about 25. And that would still be the commission's desire, is to have a number of locations where we could do that. And we recognize it's in conflict with this 1,000 feet. And I can't fix that, we can't fix that. Just letting the supervisors know, and then they can do with that what they wish. So I would move staff's recommendation on these two cleanup issues, and then I would also include in that the previously mentioned direction we give to the Board of Supervisors. And I'll do that in the same motion.
I'll second that.
A motion has been made. A motion has been made by Commissioner Norby and second by Commissioner Fallinger with the approval of staff's recommendation with an amendments. Additional, we're going to consider a letter to them.
I would like, because the hearing is actually scheduled for next Tuesday, it's something we'll more than likely will verbally tell the Board of Supervisors, because the board letter has already been adopted.
Okay, we're open for discussion.
I would recommend on that to not just, have as part of the motion. I respect what you said, Commissioner Norby, but I would be on the other side of the issue, so I'd like to clarify though on that point. Under the ordinances in place today, how many potential sites are there in the unincorporated area?
When applying the 1,000-foot buffer, Commissioner did, we calculated roughly, there could be roughly about 16.
That's so really without any changes, the word that I brought up, the public brought up, 16 today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and how many are operating today?
There are no legal medical marijuana collectors operating today.
In the unincorporated area?
Unincorporated area.
But there are in surrounding cities?
Well, according to what I've read in the paper, there are about 180 operating in the city of San Diego. Whether they're legal or not, I don't know. But there are other facilities operating in the city of San Diego.
And then another question, and since we're just in discussion, so the other question I had, since I wasn't here when this was approved, the issue of the outright ban, and someone mentioned multiple cities as well as the 4 surrounding counties. What is the issue there? Why did they, or do you know, or why were they legally allowed to? I'm assuming, I'm speculating that, because I know this issue a little bit in general, the council probably advised that you can't just do an outright ban, but I'm kind of just wondering a quick history of that issue.
I apologize because I'm not the counsel in our office who's handled this item generally, but I understand there is ongoing litigation sort of looking at this issue of whether or not a total ban is legally defensible. And our board has decided to allow a limited number of sites.
Okay. So the board was aware of that issue? Okay. So then my last question on the motion is, again, what is there something wrong with us to shorten that 2009, 2013 instead of make it 2012, as was requested? Are we able to make that? Or I'm assuming Commissioner Norby perhaps maybe wouldn't be supportive of that.
Commissioner did a 3-year period to allow them to basically wind down. Was something that we already had in the ordinance that we've used in the past. We believe that was a reasonable amount of time, and that's why when the ordinance was adopted this summer, they had that the 3-year period existed, and we propose to continue using it.
Mr. Franchi, Mr. Chairman, is that consistent with policy in other ordinances and allowing people to come into compliance?
Yeah, it's consistent with, we have a similar allowance for the adult entertainment type uses.
Well, again, I can support the motion if you can, at least raise to the board's attention the issue of profits. It doesn't need to be part of the motion, but if staff can include that. As to the 1,000-foot, if we could just not have that as part of the motion and just simply rely on staff to communicate. I personally, just as one commissioner, would be sympathetic to that issue and would encourage the board to look at that. I see with the motion here, we won't. If any one of us weren't comfortable with the motion, obviously we couldn't give a recommendation because we only have the bare minimum quorum here.
So at this point, I think the way I'd like to proceed is the maker of the motion willing to change to accommodate Commissioner?
Yes, what I'd like to suggest is that that we handle these 2 issues separately, that would allow perhaps an affirmative vote on these by the commissioners, and then I will introduce a second motion with the language that is suggested by staff or my language, and then the commissioners can vote on that separately.
So you want to keep your motion in place as it is now?
No, I want to amend my motion to remove the language about the 1,000 feet that is in terms of notifying the board of directors. So I just want to limit my motion to staff recommendation.
The chair is open for a second. I know you're going to agree with, okay. It's been moved in second by Commissioner Norby and second by Commissioner Ballinger that we accept staff's report as submitted. All in favor, please vote. The staff's recommendation is passed with all seated commissioners present, with Commissioner Woods and Beck absent. The floor is open for another motion.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, maybe we should appoint one of the commissioners to be at Tuesday's meeting and just personally address these issues for the Board of Supervisors.
And we had 2 commissioners in particular that were that had things they want to address. Either of you available?
I don't need to be there.
Okay.
As long as the board's aware of the issue, I'm confident that the people, the public's gonna be there, so I'm sure they'll raise the issue.
Yeah, and I don't know if we need to do this in the motion, but I think I would like the commissioners to direct staff at least that we make the supervisors aware of this discrepancy.
And I concur. Does that satisfy you, Commissioner Day? Okay, you have noted
You have
the
that
concerns we have.
direction on Tuesday, yeah.
Okay. So we've already voted and accepted, and so that ends item 1, and